Autumn is almost here, and wonderful, warm, inviting smells of good food will be coming out of kitchens everywhere. Stocking up the pantry with fall staples is one of those things that makes autumn so cozy. We want to nest with the warm comfort of cooking familiar dishes, but also being inspired to try something new. So today I'm going to show you what I've stocked my fall and winter pantry with, so let's get started. Now, of course, fall is synonymous with warming spices, and you can use them to make everything from those wonderful fall coffee drinks to those cozy and comforting casseroles and roast chicken and turkey dinners that will be coming up soon enough. Now, if you're into fall baking, there's some spices you won't want to be without. Things like ground ginger, pumpkin pie spice, cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, and allspice. I also like to use cardamom for cookies and cakes as well in the fall. Then we've got some canned pumpkin, which will go into muffins and soups, and also a couple jars of mincemeat. My husband is a huge fan of mincemeat, so I always have that available for tarts. And I also have some baking chips, also raisins, dates for date squares. We've got dried cranberries, and I also stock instant milk powder, and this I use for baking. Anytime a recipe calls for milk, I will use this. Try to make sure I have baking powder on hand, a 25-pound bag of flour, honey, and I stock regular sugar as well. And I also stock baking cocoa, regular large flake oats for muffins and oatmeal. Fall also means entertaining, so I like to have some things that I can open up and eat and serve for easy lunches, or that I can add to salads or other dishes. So I stock artichoke hearts, I have some beets, and I also have antipasto and some olives. Now, this kind of thing is great to have on hand if you have company over, because you can just serve this up with some nice fresh bread or slice up some cheese, and you've got a really nice lunch. Hazelnuts, walnuts, and almonds. And walnuts and almonds in particular are probably some of the healthiest nuts that you can buy. And don't be afraid of the big packages if you get them for a good deal, because you can put them in the fridge and they'll last well over a year, or you can put them in the freezer and they'll last even longer. And of course, fall is also the start of soup season, so I have some chicken broth on hand. I usually make my own and put it in the freezer, but sometimes we use it up and we just don't have it, so it's nice to have some already done. And if you're short on space, the bouillon cubes will work as well. And then spices to go along with that, I use poultry seasoning, I use thyme, and this stuff is really nice. If you've ever tried this, roasted garlic and pepper, I've added it to stir fries or chicken and lentils. It's amazing. And of course, as many of you know, I do make a lot of Italian food, so I do like to stock a lot of passata, because this is mostly what I use when I make pasta sauce. And then I also stock canned fish of all descriptions: salmon, mackerel, tuna, you name it. And canned fish is as good and as nutritious as fresh. And of course, fall and winter is the time for those cozy drinks. So I've got hot chocolate, coffee, I have espresso, Bengal spice, which is fabulous, and then I also have the celestial sleepy time tea, which is one of my favorites. And then I also stock up on avocado oil and olive oil, and the avocado is the one that I use for baking. Canned beans, things like black beans and chickpeas. Now, if you really want to save money, stock up on the dried versions like this and just soak them and cook them yourself. You'll save a lot of money. But sometimes it's an impromptu dish and I need something ready, so the canned beans are always nice to have ready to go. Now, one thing to note about storing dried beans is that there seems to be an idea that they will last for decades, and that's not technically true, because beans will only contain their top nutrition for about 3 years, and after 5 years the nutritional value contained within them is very, very low, and they will also get very tough and virtually impossible to cook unless you've got a pressure canner or some such device. And even then, you still might be able to eat them. They'll be edible, but the nutritional value will be very, very low. So make sure you're only buying enough beans that you can reasonably consume within a 3-year period to get the most nutrition out of them. Another great thing to add to your fall and winter pantry is frozen vegetables, because they are cost effective and they are just as nutritious as fresh. So if you have things like peas and carrots and broccoli, you can make broccoli soup soup, or you can have a quick little side dish with the addition of some olive oil and a bit of garlic, and it's so easy. And if you eat grains, of course, things like pasta and rice are all fabulous staples. Also, to the grain category, you can add things like wild rice and quinoa because they are a great start to some comfort casseroles, and they also add fabulous texture to side dishes and salads. I also like to have the Kirkland canned chicken in my pantry, and this stuff is really good. I hadn't tried it before until a few years ago, and it's such a great way to add quick protein to soups or casseroles, and it works really well for chicken salad too. If you have a dog or a cat, pick up an extra couple of bags of dry food, some extra wet food. This time of year you can usually find good deals on things like tin foil, wax paper, freezer bags, parchment paper, saran wrap, that kind of thing. And also extra garbage bags are great to have on hand, because one time in my life I needed a garbage bag and I didn't have it, and it was an awful experience, so I will never be without them again. And also dishwashing gloves. Pick up a few extra pairs so you have them. And then I also buy extra of the dish scrubbies. And these I actually cut in half because they need to be replaced fairly often, so it makes them go a little further. Fall and winter is also a great time to make sure our immunity is as best as it can possibly be. Now, in my other job, I work around people all day, and my husband works around students all day. So it's really good for us to keep our immunity up as much as we can. And there's a couple of supplements that my doctor told me about years ago that I always try to keep on hand during the fall and winter months. And they're taken in tandem. And one combination is vitamin D3 and K2 taken together. The vitamin D3 helps your immune system recover more quickly from respiratory infections, and it also helps your body absorb calcium for good bone health and bone strength. And if you take it together with the vitamin K2, it helps direct the calcium into your bones and teeth where it belongs, and it helps keep it out of your arteries and your soft tissues, so it's good for your heart health. Now, I live on Vancouver Island in Canada, and my doctor also said that anyone who lives north of Arizona probably is likely lower in vitamin D levels, so he recommends anyone in our area definitely to take vitamin D. The other combination that he said was good to take together was vitamin C and zinc. Zinc is also one of those immunity superstars because it helps reduce the duration of the common cold, and it also helps reduce inflammation, which is also good for your skin and your heart health. Now, I have my K2 and D3 separate, but I looked online and you can actually find them together in one bottle. So when I finish mine, I'm going to get that type next time, but I'll link it in the description. In with the baking supplies that I showed you, you saw that I had some cocoa powder, and if you have darker hair like I do, I'll show you another great use for it. In this little container here, I have some baby powder mixed with some cocoa powder, and I use this as a dry shampoo for dark hair. So I'll use a kabuki brush like this, which is short and dense bristles, and I just dip it into the powder and apply it to my roots, and it makes a fabulous and cost-effective dry shampoo. Now, the really great news is that most of these products that I talked about will be coming up on sale at your local grocery store in the coming weeks. So keep an eye out on your flyer for some great deals. Having a well-stocked fall and winter pantry gives us options when we have that day where we don't feel like going to the store. And when we get that urge to make that pumpkin spice wherever, we're all set to go. So thank you so much for joining in with me today. I sure do appreciate you spending a bit of your time with me, and we'll catch you in the next one.